Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, so we're diving into what I honestly think is one of the most fascinating and frankly bizarre historical cold cases in the entire history of human language. I mean, have you ever stopped to wonder how the name of the ancient Egyptian god of light, the sun, and ultimate cosmic order ended up being the exact same word in Hebrew for ruin, brokenness, and pure evil? It's wild, right? It's a staggering paradox. On one side of the border, Ra is the absolute pinnacle of a spiritual hierarchy. And then, on the other side, spoken by the very people who broke free from that exact hierarchy, Ra means absolute destruction. We're going to unpack exactly how this seemingly impossible linguistic overlap actually happened.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the linguistic paradox, then look at the orthodox view, dive into the metaphysical catalyst, explore the energetic feedback loop, and finally wrap up with time-lagged relevancy. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the linguistic paradox. Let's look at this ancient intersection. To really grasp the gravity of this, we need to look at the stark contrast between these two concepts. Over on the Egyptian side, Ra wasn't just a word, It was the literal foundation of their entire reality. It represented the sun, the day, the very concept of cosmic order. But then, you move over to the Hebrew side, and we have the root word Ra, and this word represents the exact opposite end of the spectrum. We're talking evil, harm, brokenness, and ruin. Seriously, how did two neighboring ancient cultures land on the exact same sound to describe the ultimate light and the ultimate darkness? It's like a giant puzzle.
Now, linguistically, the Egyptian hieroglyph for the sun was just a simple circle with a dot right in the middle. Interestingly enough, while we all say Ra today, linguists actually believe its original New Kingdom pronunciation was probably closer to Ria or Ri, which eventually evolved into the Coptic Ri. Whatever the exact vowel sound, it was literally the ultimate word of divine authority.
And yet, incredibly, the native Semitic root for Ra, spelled Resh Ain Ain, translates fundamentally to breaking, shattering, spoiling, or just making something completely useless. It shares a precise phonetic overlap with the Egyptian deity. Think about that for a second. When a Hebrew speaker wanted to describe a state of utter moral or physical collapse, they used the exact same sonic vibration that the Egyptians used to worship their highest god.
Moving on to Section 2. The orthodox view. Is it all just a pure coincidence? So the crucial point we have to mention here is that mainstream linguistics essentially just dismisses this overlap as a massive coincidence. The orthodox view is basically that these are completely independent language families. The phonetic similarity we hear today, they say it's just an accidental byproduct of Western vocalization conventions and the natural phonetic drift of languages over thousands of years. So from a strictly academic standpoint, they're etymologically distinct, and any connection is pure homophonic coincidence. Just a fluke. Nothing to see here, essentially.
But here's the thing. Ancient writers absolutely noticed it. Even if they were entirely separate languages, this intersection was actively weaponized back in antiquity. There's this brilliant, just absolutely brilliant literary pun from the book of Exodus. The Pharaoh is warning Moses, saying, "Look to it, for evil," or Ra, "is before your face." The author is crafting a very deliberate double entendre here. The Pharaoh, a guy who literally considered himself the son of Ra, is unconsciously warning the Hebrews that their supreme god, Ra, is actually a force of ruin. It's an incredible textual clue that totally vindicates this paradox we're exploring today.
All right, Section 3, the metaphysical catalyst. Let's talk about the Law of One.
So, if we look at this through the lens of the 1980s channeled Law of One framework, we get a really fascinating three-step progression that explains how this could have happened. First up, the original influx. The text claims that a highly evolved collective consciousness, referred to as a sixth-density social memory complex named Ra, visited ancient Egypt to transmit a pure teaching of absolute unity and light. But then, step 2 happens, the imperial elite distortion. The Egyptian priests and pharaohs basically hijacked this teaching. They completely weaponized it to build rigid caste systems and enforce slavery. And that leads directly to step 3, the resulting polarization. A teaching that was meant for ultimate unity was structurally inverted into a system of total physical and spiritual bondage.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core of our hypotheses here. By taking the frequency of unity, the entity Ra, and structurally inverting it into an engine of imperial subjugation, the Egyptian elite created a massive, inescapable metaphysical debt. The scales of cosmic balance were tipped so severely by this distortion that it required an equal and opposite energetic reaction to balance the ledger. You can't just create that kind of imbalance without the universe demanding a correction.
Which brings us to Section 4, the energetic feedback loop, and the concept of sonic tagging.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the birth of the Hebrew alphabet itself, which actually happened right in the crucibles of Egyptian labor. The Semitic workers created the Proto-Sinaitic script through a process called Acrophonic inversion. They literally took the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the sacred visual language of their oppressors, dismantled them, and repurposed them to write their own native tongue. This wasn't just a linguistic shift, you guys. It was a profound spiritual rebellion. They were actively stripping the imperial power right out of the very symbols that oppressed them.
Now apply that exact same concept to sound. Living under the heavy shadow of the Egyptian empire, the enslaved laborers experienced the application of the state's supreme deity, Ra, as absolute trauma. Because their lived, everyday experience of Ra was pure suffering, their language unconsciously codified that specific vibration to literally mean evil. To the oppressor, Ra was glorious light. But to the oppressed, the sonic vibration of Ra became the literal designation for that which is fractured, spoiled, and evil. It's essentially the sonic tagging of oppression.
Let's move to our final section, Section 5, Time-Lagged Relevancy and Resolving the Timeline.
Now I know what you might be thinking. There is a glaring chronological flaw in this theory. Orthodox history will quickly tell you that the Hebrew root for evil actually existed long before the specific events of the Egyptian New Kingdom. Well, to resolve this chronological flaw, this metaphysical framework actually asks us to rethink time itself. Instead of a straight causal line where A simply causes B, time is viewed as an unfolding geometric tapestry. Under this model, the alignment of these terms isn't a direct cause and effect. It represents a time-delayed systemic convergence.
If we map this out, we can see the initial seeding of the roots of language, moving to the historical event of the imperial hijacking, and finally the synthesis, the point where the concept fully realizes itself into physical reality. It takes centuries, sometimes millennia, of linear time for the underlying spiritual geometry of an event to fully mature and crystallize. So the convergence of these words isn't a chronological cause and effect, it's an unfolding symmetry. The universe, in essence, is holding the receipt for Egypt's distortion and just waiting to cash it in.
Let's pull all of these threads together. Under this hypothesis, this phonetic overlap is way more than just a historical footnote. First, the Hebrew language acted as a vibrational mirror, perfectly reflecting the spiritual distortion of their captors. Second, by rendering the name of Egypt's highest god as their literal word for evil, the Hebrew scribes unconsciously closed an energetic circle. And third, they preserved an ultimate cosmic truth. Any system of light that is built upon the backs of the enslaved will inevitably, by its very metaphysical nature, manifest as ruin.
So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder. When we speak, are we merely using a utilitarian tool born of random phonetic drift? Or is human language actually a cosmic receipt, a living, breathing, sonic ledger that structurally records the spiritual triumphs and the profound metaphysical debts of our shared human history? Next time you speak, remember the absolute weight that words can hold. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the reality behind the words we use every single day.